I honestly don't think you can find a more honest, fair, kind man than Dennis Ponton.
I cannot say enough about Dennis Ponton's skill, professionalism, and care and concern for all of us.
You won't find a better role model than Dennis for personal integrity.
He's extremely supportive. When he was around, you felt things were going to be okay.
Everyone speaks well of Dennis.
Well, I remember him when he first started because I was a reference librarian. And he used to come in and do a lot of research at the card catalog. And he was very quiet, but he always smiled. And he was a very independent researcher. He didn't need a lot of help. He didn't ask a lot of questions, but he was always supportive.
I didn't get my full professorship the first time I applied. But when I didn't get that opportunity, I did ask if Dr. Ponton, if the campus would sponsor me to send me to a management development program that they had at Harvard. And that year, Dennis agreed to sponsor me. So I was really the first chair that went for the campus to the Harvard Management Development Program. And I don't want to say it changed me forever, but I would say that it certainly did provide an excellent support for my eventual leadership plans. But he did that, and I think that was a way of his saying, I do appreciate you and I know your work.
In 1999, we had a big storm here in November, and a bunch of us were kind of stranded in Claudel Hall. We ended up sleeping overnight here at the campus. So what we did was we called Dennis and told him that about 12 of us were in Claudel Hall. And the next thing you know, he bundled himself up and walked over from Cleveland Hall over to Claudel Hall just to check on us and to make sure that we were all right and had everything we needed and that we would be warm and safe for the evening. So I think that little story really tells you a lot about the kind of person that Dennis Ponton is.
We're both tennis players, and the campus has a fundraiser each year, the Golf and Tennis Classic. So there weren't many of us who played tennis. There'd be some years 8, some years fewer, and Dennis and his wife Libby are champion tennis players. They're very, very good, but you didn't choose your partner. They would just mix it up so that the games would be decent. And I often played mixed doubles with Dennis. I was his partner. And whenever I was his partner, I would cause him to lose. But he was very gentlemanly about it, and he didn't care about winning the trophy. I felt a little bad.
We met when we were about 11 years old. We grew up in a small coal mining town in southern West Virginia, and we happened to go to the same church in that little town, and that's where we first met. And we got married in '66.
I think one of the things that stands out to me, especially since he's retiring now, is how good he was at separating work and home. When he came home and when he was with us, he was so completely there and so completely involved in what we were doing.
There's so much about Dennis that not only I, but everybody loves about him. One is his sense of humor. He's got a marvelous sense of humor. He can come up with the neatest little quips. He just keeps me in stitches all the time. And that's one of the things I love most about him. And I'm sure anybody at Buff State that knows him very well would attest to that.
The other thing I would say about him, especially to people who work with him, is I don't know if they know how goofy he really is. One thing that I have always remembered was back when the movie Ghostbusters first came out, his fascination and identification with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I think he had like a little stuffed Marshmallow Man, and he would imitate the Marshmallow Man.
He's somebody that I could just be very comfortable with. I didn't have to pretend that I was somebody different from who I was. I could just relax and enjoy being together with him. And he just made that so easy. And he still does. I think pretty much anybody that's around him, quickly relaxes and feels comfortable with him.
He really enjoyed accomplishing certain long-term tasks, long-term projects. When you're in administration, you don't get rewards every day. It's not like a reference librarian helps a student, wow, that feels good, I helped the student. You work on something and 5 or 7 years later, the building is opened or the new lab is finally unveiled. It took us years to build the communications television studio, for instance. But every time we'd cut a ribbon or something like that, Dennis was always there, and he had a sense of accomplishment that you could see. He's very modest and quiet, but you can just tell by his smile how much he appreciates all the work that has gone into moving the campus forward. And he was always interested in moving the campus forward and keeping it steady.
I think his time at Buffalo State has been such an important part of his life. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to just totally withdraw from it and not be a part of it anymore. It's an important community-based school, and I think he feels like he's been a really important part in the growth of the school and helping it become what it is today. And I'm so proud of what he's accomplished in his job, his career, but also what he's accomplished as a person, as an individual. The character that he has, the integrity that he has. He's a role model for me.
It's no accident, you see, that I see our dear Dennis Ponton very much like Albus Dumbledore, who was a great man, who was a wise man, who was a patient man, who was able to command great magic while he was also incredibly grounded in the life of his students, and he was a fierce advocate for his faculty. And so, Dennis Ponton, I would say to you that whether or not that you are a Harry Potter fan, I see in you Albus Dumbledore, and there's no greater tribute from Minerva McGonagall, aka Wendy Patterson, than that.
Hope that he and Libby enjoy a long and happy retirement.
I want to thank him for the amazing support that he has given us. He has been the most steady and reassuring provost.
A wonderful retirement. Dennis, we're going to miss you.
We wish he and Libby the very best in retirement. We will all miss him very, very much. Thank you, Dennis Ponton.